Over the last few weeks, we've been noticing the front tires are really squishy, and it just seems like they're really just flat. And one of the questions was whether or not we actually have any fluid in the actual tires. So we went over and filled them up, and there is actual fluid. It doesn't look like it's a beet juice. It looks like it's just water. I don't know why they didn't put like a, I forget what the fluid called, but anyway, so there is stuff in there. So we have front ballast in those areas. It's just like a car tire. So I looked it up in the manual, and they said, I don't know what the tire says, but they said put up from 16 to 30 PSI. So I put it about up to 30, just so it doesn't squish so much on us. So in past episodes when I've been mowing, I've been pretty fearful of it tipping. And we have a lot of hilly ground. And so I've been wondering what you can do to increase the lateral stability of your tractor as you're going on hills. And this last week when the guy was out checking everything, he suggested that we take these front tires, and because the curve of the tire comes this and inward, and the offset comes onto the inside, he says flip your front tires so that way the hub is on this side and your lugs are on the other side. So we're just flipping the offset to the outside. So that's his suggestion. Now other people do use spacers, which is just like a plastic or a metal space. It's a spacer, it's what it is. They take the tire off and they stick it here, and then they stick the tire back on, and they can get a spacer up 1 inch, 2 inch, 6 inch, whatever it is, depending on your tractor, and they'll use that instead. I think I'm going to just try flipping the tires around. Now, I think it'll still be within the same line of the outside tire. It might stick out a little bit further, but I don't know. I just need something to give a little bit more confidence in going on these hills. So, tires are filled. Probably too much, and we're going to see if we can get this set up. So our jack is going to be the front loader, and we're going to see if we can get them off.
Okay, so the front arms weren't able to lift up the tractor enough, so we did re-put back on the pallet forks. And so now we've got the front tires off the ground, and Jeff's taken off the lugs.
That's not screwed on now.
Nope, we want it off, so now we can take off that tire.
And put it back on.
Let's see how hard it is to maneuver this beast.
Not that.
Well, it's not light.
No. Alright, let me just put
Oh, shoot. Alright, 2 strong boys, come on.
This orientation, the point
should be pointing towards.
Yes. It's going to tip on you.
Alright, 2 boys, come on.
Alright, dog, let's get the gun. You guys leave the nuts over there? Put them over there, that's what they do.
Ow, stabbed my. Yes. Oh, that was far. Yeah, so freaking.
Let me turn this all the way.
Alright, second wheel.
Those aren't light. Oh.
How much do you think they weigh?
Too much. That has 738 pounds of water in it.
Nice.
So this probably has a couple 100 pounds at least. Then you got the rim and the tire.
Yeah.
Oh, we did not get the.
Ooh, nice.
She's not even over here, is she? Nuts. Sticker ahoy. Not. Did Grant put that other tire on?
No.
I don't know if he's gonna manhandle that by himself.
No, don't.
Don't put it on.
Now push the bottom.
Oh, push and Mar, you got a thing on there.
This thing's built.
Mari, can you try and get a lug on there?
I can't get it on, it just falls right off.
All right.
Off it all? Right. Now we should torque these, but I don't have a torque wrench with me. In fact, I don't even own a torque wrench. So we're just gonna check these after a while, make sure they stay tight today. I'll have to get a torque wrench and come back this weekend or so and torque them down to the proper settings. But this is gonna be pretty tight. We'll just keep checking them. Now, I wanna check the other one since that one was squampus when we tightened it, just to make sure everything's still tight. These things are amazing, man. I hate to do this by hand. All right. Now, I want to see how much difference. So I'm going to let the weight off and I'm going to kind of back around and move so it kind of squats a little bit and gets these things all lined up. And before, they were more lined up with the inside of the tread of the black back tires.
Yeah.
So it looks like it did set them out a little bit. I don't know if it maybe gave me 3 or 4 inches, either tire. That's probably pretty good because those spacers, they're saying, you know, if you can even get 2 inches, that's good. So if I got 3 or 4, it looks like I definitely got a wider footprint. So I think that'll work. We'll torque them down later. Before I get off the point of this lateral stability on a tractor, I do just want to mention it's actually a pretty serious thing that tractors are not the most stable creatures in the world. What you have is a high center of gravity across it. I mean, there's probably, I'm looking at it right now, upwards of maybe 2 feet ground clearance, something like this. But a lot of that 10,000 pounds that's sitting there is actually at or above the axles. And people every year get in hairy situations. They tip over, some die. So I'm not saying this to kind of make it seem like, oh, Jeff, you wuss. You know, you coward, but it's pretty legit. And anybody who's driven a tractor, I think, knows it really is not the safest feeling in the world sometimes when you start bobbling around. So it's a real issue that you kind of wonder why in the automotive world car manufacturers have done a lot with stability control, but maybe just, I don't know why tractors haven't. And maybe there's not a lot they really can do. So the point is us as owners have to take action to try and make it stable. We put spacers, we try and get a wide stance in the front like I just did. Carry a lot of weight and try and lower that weight down as much as possible with the buckets and so forth. But I just want to let you know kind of why I'm doing this with those tires is really just because it's pretty legit. People die every year with it. So my property has a lot of hills and a lot of it's unknown terrain for me. Hopefully that helps you understand why we did what we did with the tires, and hopefully that'll help out a lot. So I want to fill you in on some of the details that have been kind of coming to light this last week. As you know, last week we had the guy come out, the grapple wasn't working, it just wasn't opening. So this is kind of the story. Our grapple has a third function remote on it up at the front. So that means we can hook well, as you saw, we can hook the hoses right up to it, and allows hydraulic pressure from the system to go through to open the claw and close the claw. Well, our problem's been that it didn't seem to be able to open the claw and close the claw. So the reason why I felt that way was because if you look at the remote, and here are two buttons side to side, and then there's one up top. When I move the joystick to the left and the right, the bucket in essence, or the claw, would curl, and when I go forward and back, it drops it and raises it. So the hydraulic lines currently are routed to do those two functions with the joystick. Well, when you look at the joystick, you have the buttons here and here, okay? These are on a true functioning third function valve. That means I could push this button and open it and or close it, and this button, open it and or close it. So as I've had this thing and I've been using it, it hasn't been working. I pushed the buttons and it didn't do anything. Well, come to find out, what I have is a third function diverter valve, not a true third function valve. Okay, so the diverter, what it does is it uses your existing hoses and hydraulics, and all it does is allows you to be able to switch from doing one function to a different function, but it does not allow simultaneous functions between the two. So, for example, if I push here, that activates the diverter. It turns off the controls to the regular joystick operation, and then when I move left and right, it allows the curling functions. Maybe whether I go to the right, it opens it, and whether I come to the left, it closes it. But this button is to divert it. That means, though, that I can't use the curling function at the same time. So last week when I was looking at it and everything, I kept pushing that little top button and it would just incrementally open. Well, that's because I was activating the diverter. There was some fluid starting to try and go in somewhere. I might have been leaning on the joystick a little bit, and so it incrementally opened it. And I thought, this isn't working, right? We tried extra fluid, it wasn't working. Well, that's because I have a third function diverter. The diverter diverts the fluid between one of two options, a curl function or the claw function. A true third function valve allows simultaneous claw and curl functions. When I bought the tractor, I said I wanted a third function valve. They gave me a third function diverter kit. Well, apparently, John Deere does not make a true third function valve. It beats me, and I don't know why they would use this joystick, besides it's just cheap to use it on everything that they make, even though that they have no functions. So I'm working with John Deere right now to try and get an aftermarket part, which they do have, to try and get that third functioning working, so that way the two buttons will work. But anyway, that's the story of why the Grapple quote hasn't been working, is because they gave me a diverter valve, not the true third function like I thought I was getting when I asked them for it. Okay, so I want to talk through a little bit about this. This is the first time I've used a grapple ever. That was the first log I ever dropped. But there is a right way and a wrong way to use this, and I do not profess to know any way that is perfect. But this is kind of a typical situation. You get the black part, you scoop it up under the roots, and then you curl up, because you get a lot more curling force. Then once it's kind of out of the ground, then you lift up with the front loader. And it rips it out of the ground, and everybody's happy. That isn't always possible on every tree. Some trees are obviously bigger. You know, as a root rake grapple, the part of the reason I like this as a root rake is because small trees that are just kind of there, mainly like fat roots out of the ground, you can just scrape along the ground and actually pull them out of the ground with the soil and just rake it, in other words, and just rip everything out. So that's a good function about it. And then it's just a matter of cleaning up all the pieces, but the grapple can't get everything, but it can get a lot of stuff. So this is actually a bigger tree than the first one that you saw. And what I'm not doing correctly here is I really haven't, dug the grapple down into the roots, and I'm just trying to pull it out. And this one's more stout. It's definitely in there. And what you can see is happening is it's twisting kind of the front loader frame. And that is something that actually you can break your frame if you don't if you don't address the situation and stop pulling so much. So it is something to be cognizant of. But Grant just told me, hey, go ahead and grip it again and try a different positioning on it. I tried to get it more centered, but obviously it's still doing it. So my thought here was, well, if I've got it pinned, why don't I go forward, maybe back a little bit, and then see if that wiggles it and I can pull it up out of the ground. Ultimately, you do have the most force from the curling effect, but here I'm too vertical. I've already uncurled as much as possible, so I couldn't do anything else. Then it was just a front loader, which you don't get as much pulling force from the front loader, just lifting. But yeah, so here it is again. Obviously it's still tipping the tractor some, but it'll come. Oh, it'll come.
All right, so hopefully that helps you see some of actually what we're trying to get. I mean, they are pretty skinny, some of them, but it should be nice to not have them down there. So let's see how it looks close up this time.
Right here. Robot, just keep scraping. He'll tell you when to stop.
Yeah. You buried a couple underneath the wet dirt.
In this clip here, you see me doing a better job of scraping the ground with the lower part of the grapple. Here I lower it down and then I slowly move forward, trying to capture more of the roots as opposed to skimming the surface, and trying to get everything to come up. After the first pass, I had to come back and do a second pass, and Grant was telling me to go a little bit deeper. And in doing so, I was able to pick up the little stump on the far side. Just from this view here, I mean, it's just easy to see that we are still on a slope. This isn't exactly straight ground. And so that doesn't help sometimes the maneuverability of the tractor, but also as I'm digging out all this stuff, I'm creating more and more holes in the ground. Yeah, this is a good view of just pulling that sucker out. You know, that sucker's a little beastie. But, you know, I'm creating more problems for myself by scraping all this stuff. That's a funky tree. But the wider tires, man, they helped a lot. I did feel a lot more stable. Not exactly like I'm in a sports car, but I did feel more stable. So anyway, here's a few more of the types of things that we were pulling out. Ultimately, you know, this isn't a very fast gig. And there are some trees, you know, if you start getting 4 or 5 inches around, there's a lot of digging. Yeah, here I'm already off the back tire. It isn't super ideal. I don't think the Grapple is the best tree stump removal tool. It can handle smaller things, it can help with roots, but it is not the perfect tool.
This big fatty was still there. Jeff's gonna come in from like this direction and up that way. So he's making this nice pass down the row before he re-angles and tries something else. Alright, so that's where it got bent. Alright, so there's the huge stump that he dug on both sides, but the roots still won't let it go. It's a pretty big one compared to what he's been taking out. So you're going to try and attack this big one again? Just going to leave him alone for now?
I was wondering, should we try and
go up the line of all the others?
I mean, some of those are not as big as this guy, of course, but some of these other ones that look pretty stout just came right out of the ground.
Well, and I think now that you have some good practice with it, it might just go really smooth. To just move down the line and pull out all the stumps. Yes. There, Grant's ready for his photos.
Go, my steed. I need to conquer the world.
Alright, and while they play on the awesome root rake.
The root rake. My steed.
This isn't gonna.
My steed means to use the loo, it must.
Guys, I'm trying to look.
So, as we've been scooping out these roots and stumps, this hydraulic fluid has been leaking. Sometimes very quickly, but usually just very steady, drip, drip, drip. So, we're not sure what to do with it. It's something to be aware of, but that's just what we've had.
So if I remember right from watching, there's so much fluid pressure you're able to put into a system before it starts having problems. And the claw, the green claw portion, if you were to pull back and the force wants to open it, it can exert an extreme amount of fluid pressure in there just from the torque that's being applied on that or the moment. And so I think it's going beyond the recommended fluid pressure. I don't know if it's 3,000 psi, but I've seen reports maybe you can get up to like 6,000 or 8,000 psi when that's tried to being pried open. So I stopped trying to pull back when it's clamped because that just pushes on that claw, and I think that's causing it to spill out. I don't know if there's anything else wrong with it, but I'm trying to not do that because I think that exerts more fluid pressure than the system and seals can handle, and that might be partly why it's leaking.
All right, so we had some storms move through last night, and the kids, well, Clark especially didn't sleep well, so he's kind of being cranky and tired. I was like, hey, go lay down in the truck. So let's go see if he took a nap or if he's just playing.
No.
No, what are you doing?
Laying down.
Okay, you feeling any better? Or you need to lay a little more.
Need no more.
Okay, just checking on you. Alright, we got this big guy.
There, you're right there.
And yeah, you
Like this guy. Good.
yeah. Push it down. Can you see it again? There we go, let's see. There it comes.
Oh, get out of the way. Got it?
Alright, we have not attacked anything over here today. The great land of the stumps. But the entrance over there, let's go up there.
And the stump
But
right
this
here.
entrance here,
Run over the stump.
there's pretty much no stumps except that one big end we couldn't get out. So that's pretty good. And then as we come over to this area, we're trying to clear out, but it's hard to maneuver. We still have a lot of little trees,
I know. I just don't know
so
how
it's tricky.
fast.
The sun's peeking down. It's been a good day. Little bug trying to reach whatever she can.
Okay, did you see what? Did you show what we got?
Yeah. Let's just go ahead and show one last quick. Okay, here's the last few stumps we just took out. Oh, they're gone. They're missing. Hi, Clark.
Hi.
And there's the stump-free zone over there, except for a few big bad nasties.
Wait, we got some of the stumps out.
And awaiting. They're all standing up, waiting their turn.
I think we need to reassess the value of the tractor versus us pulling roots by hand, but the tractor definitely demos a lot of the ground to do it. I'm gonna break the tractor. That's what I think. But we're gonna be here for a long time. It's Thanksgiving. We do wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you're grateful for something. And we're gonna be back most of this week continuing on. So anyway, we'll catch you later next time.